Good morning and welcome to this presentation about the Finnish Twitter census. My name is Hampus Brynolf and I've been doing this study for a couple of years now, but this is the first time we are presenting data about Twitter in Finland. So hope you will enjoy what I have to show you, and I hope a lot of people will ask questions. The easiest way to do that is on the Twitter census hashtag on Twitter, but you can also ask questions here in the Bump user chat below. So let's go. What is Twitter census? Twitter census is the biggest Twitter study in Nordics, and this is the third annual study. And as I said, this is the first time we are including Finland and Finnish-speaking tweeps. Before we get into the results, I will explain some things about the method I use to identify Finnish-speaking tweeps. Starting on number 1 in this schematic, I get a Twitter user from a queue, my queue. I check the language of the last 75 tweets. If this Twitter user is found out to be Finnish, I save him and I add all friends and all followers of that tweet. If that person is not found out to be Finnish, I will block that person or that account so that it's not scanned again. So one more time, if we start from number 1, I start with, for example, a Yle account. I get the last 75 tweets of that Yle account. I run through them to identify if it's primarily written in Finnish. If it's written in Finnish, I will take all the followers of that account and save them to the queue, so that those people are going to be scanned later on. And if I find a person, for example, someone is following Barack Obama, which is not totally far-fetched, that means that Barack Obama will get into the queue. I will scan Barack Obama. I will find out that he's not Finnish, and I will block him so that I don't have to scan him again. So that's basically the method I'm using. That means that what I'm scanning for is Finnish people. No, it's not Finnish people, but people writing in Finnish. That means I have to exclude everyone who hasn't tweeted, because no tweets, and I can't make any text analysis. I cannot get data from protected accounts, so it must be an open account, which is the vast majority of accounts on Twitter are open, so that's not a big problem. By definition, I will not find or identify people or accounts who are not following anyone and are not followed by anyone. So they need to have a relationship to another Finnish-speaking person. You can explain this in another way. You can say that I've included every tweet that has written at least one tweet and who is followed by or are following at least one account identified as Finnish-speaking. So that's how I do it. And there is a problem with my method, and that is that in theory there could exist a parallel Finnish Twitter. A Twitter of persons only following each other, none of them following any other Finnish-speaking person. This is not, on a large scale, this does not happen, but there could be a couple of accounts just following each other, for example, a school class, using it as a chat client between themselves, and they are not following anyone else. So that could, I cannot be sure that I've actually found every person writing in Finnish. Now, when I did this in Sweden, I also, apart from spidering the Twitter accounts, I also added a real-time check. So I scanned some popular Swedish hashtags for which accounts were writing on that specific hashtag during a couple of days, and verified that those accounts were actually in my database, and they were. So it doesn't seem to exist any parallel Twitter, at least not in Sweden. The language analysis I'm using is an n-gram-based text categorization. Basically, it searches for three-letter combinations in words. It's considered stable, and of course, worse results with few tweets. So if a person just has written one tweet, it can be wrongly categorized as another language, depending on which words they are using. Now, my feeling is that the Finnish language is quite distinct, and it's not like between when I made a Danish and Norwegian study, there's quite a lot of overlap between the Danish and Norwegian language, which makes it a little bit harder. The data I've looked into, it seems like it's very, very stable. Now, that's not why you're listening to me, I think. So I will give you some results. And as I said before, feel free to ask questions on hashtag Twitter Census. 63,632 Finnish-speaking Twitter accounts is what I have identified. And they have together written 18 million tweets. So, and that's the main results, so to say. Altogether, they are following 4.5 million, and they're followed by 4.5 million. Of course, these are the same persons coming again and again. A lot of people are following the same people, but this is the sum of followers and following. The average status updates is 283, but the median is 10. In Sweden, 480 is the average. The average numbers of friends, friends means the ones you are following, are 71, but the median is only 17. And the average number of followers are 70, and the median is 6. Now, the big difference between the median and the average is because there are a few accounts who writes a lot, follows a lot, and are followed by many, who actually makes the average very much higher than the median. Another way to say, statuses, followers, and friends are very unevenly distributed. We see the same in all the studies I've made in Sweden, in Finland, in Norway, in Denmark. It's a few tweeps who make most of the noise, you could say. Another way to explain the same thing, let's say the same thing is this. We got, now on the x-axis, we got the number of tweets, and on the y-axis, we got the percentage of the accounts. So half of the total amount of accounts have written less than 10 tweets. Another 30% has written less than 100%. And 0 point something has written more than 10,000, or only 4% has written more than 1,000 tweets. So, but if we multiply the tweets with the number of accounts, we will find that it looks like this. So the 4% who has written more than 1,000 tweets have actually written 40% of the tweets, and the 0 point something percent has written more than 10,000 tweets has written 38% of the tweets. So some 77% of the tweets are written by persons or accounts with more than 1,000 accounts. So again, it's a very uneven distribution of activity. again, the median user has only written 10 status updates, or following 17, or followed by 6, and has been a member since 1.5 years. So there is quite a big discrepancy between the super users, or the very active users, and the median user. Now, if we redefine, if we skip all the non-active users or less active users, I've invented a definition I'm calling active, which means means that you have tweeted at least once in the last 30 days. Well, actually, it means that you have made one tweet in the 30 days prior to the scanning. So if I scanned one person in February, the 1st of February, that person has to have tweeted in the 30 days up till the 1st of February. If we look at that figure, we got 25,965 Twitter accounts, Finnish speaking. And they have written an average of 633 statuses, a mean of 62. They have an average of 127 friends and 141 followers. I think that this number is more relevant in one way, because this describes the people actually writing on Twitter. Now, on the other hand, you can say that, using Twitter is not only about writing. And I think, apart from the Twitter accounts I have found, there are many Finnish accounts that are not writing anything. And I haven't identified them because I'm looking into the active part of Twitter, or the part of Twitter people writing. But we have to remember that Twitter is not only about writing. Many people are just lurking, just looking, just following our users. Maybe they don't even have a Twitter account. Maybe they're just surfing into their favorite politician or sportsman and look into their feed. Or they go to a Finnish newspaper and they follow a Twitter feed on that page. So Twitter is not only about having an account. And Twitter can be quite much bigger than writing the content. But what I'm looking into is Twitter users that actually are writing something. Now, so I have all these accounts. Next thing is to look at when did they register. And it looks like this. So basically what you can see here is in the beginning of 2009 we had somewhere around 1,000 registrations per month, and it's been stable until the end of 2011. And at that point we got very much more registrations per month, and now we're stable on a higher level. What this means, I hope all you Finnish people can tell me. I can see that there are similarities to the Swedish, Norwegian, and Danish graphs. There's not such huge peak in the beginning of 2009 as we can see in Sweden, and that's when all the politicians and media and cultural personalities went into Twitter. We have a really big spike in the beginning of 2009. We don't see it in Finland, and maybe that's one of the explanations why Twitter in Finland has not become that big as in Sweden. And what the other peaks mean and what has triggered them, hopefully you can all help me to find out. Here's just some more lightweight funny graphs. When to tweet or not to tweet. This is when people are tweeting, the percentage per hour. Highest competition is at in the evening at 21, 22. It looks quite similar to Sweden. You're a little bit more active during the day, a little bit less in the evening. Now, I also looked into, I made a frequency analysis of the description. You know, on Twitter you can only write in the description you can write a short bio about yourself, and these are the most common words in the description that I have found, and I just removed all the tiny non-meaningful words, and I can give you the full list afterwards. There's one question about if I'm able to filter out fake accounts. Yes and no. I'm not actively filtering out them, but normally fake accounts are not writing in Finnish. They are only normally just writing in English, or just posting links, or just so they will not be in my data. Now, one interesting thing is that also changes. More interesting is that people with a lot of followers who are fakes. So if you have a list of Finnish Twitter users with most followers, maybe among the top 10, many of them maybe bought. Well, I don't know. Some of them maybe bought some Twitter followers who are fake, and in my data, they will not be so influential because I'm looking into the relationships within the community. And as the fake accounts are not part of the community, the actual number of followers in my data will drop dramatically. So I can see that in the Swedish data, that the person with the most followers almost vanish in my cluster graph that we'll look into afterwards, because no one is following actually that account, because all the followers are fake, and I don't include the followers. But if there is a Finnish spam agency putting up loads of Finnish accounts writing in Finnish, they will be in my data. I cannot exclude them. So that's the question about the fake and spam accounts. Yeah, I just looked into the geo-tagging of tweets. This is the total percentage of tweets written since 2012 that include a location in geo. That's a x and y coordinate, or longitude and latitude, or identified place. That's lower than Sweden and Finland. No, Sweden and Denmark. Now, what's next? Length of tweets. How long are the tweets? And there are some spikes that are quite interesting. The first thing you can say is, like, people really want the 140 letters. They're just maxing out. The first spike is quite interesting. That's just posting a link. Posting a link will be shortened by Twitter to 19 characters. And the next spike actually is 2 links with a space between. That's 39. And if you compare this to the Swedish graph that I don't have here, but there's something missing in this graph of tweet lengths, and that's actually the Instagram. If you just post an Instagram photo and you have it connected to Twitter, there will be an Instagram link that is somewhere. It's one of the small spikes here. But it doesn't really show in this graph, and that's because the Finnish people do not Instagram, it seems like. Or if they do, they don't tweet about it. Or maybe it's different people who Instagram and tweet. Well, that's for you Finnish people to find out. But that's a discrepancy with other data I've looked into. Now this, which brings us into one of the most interesting findings, which is, where are Finnish people tweeting from? They are tweeting from the web. What's strange about this? Well, the strange thing is that primarily you use web. Secondly, Facebook. On third place, with less than 10% of the status updates coming from an iPhone, even less from an Android phone, and then it just goes on. And there's literally tens of thousands of different clients, all on 0.000 ABA, something. But if we compare to Denmark, no big change. If we compare to Sweden, it looks like this. So Twitter for iPhone is huge. It's a huge difference. And this means that Finnish people, in comparison to Swedish, are not updating from on the go. But so it is a and if I look, I can look into the Nokia phones as well, and they are just a percentage, a percent, or something like that. So it is a very, very big difference between Finland and Sweden in how Twitter is used, and I think this have quite big implications on Twitter usage. Now, we're going to talk about force atlas graphs. See this nice animation of how every circle is an account, and accounts who are following each other are drawn to each other, and accounts not followed by another account is pushed away, as you saw on the animation. Every circle is an account, every arrow is a relationship, that means following or being followed by, and the arrows can be unidirected or bidirected. That means a person can follow another person, or she can follow him back. So again, if two accounts are following each other, they are drawn together. If they are not, they are pushed away. So I take all the accounts, not all the accounts, I take almost all the accounts, and I plot them on a graph, and I apply this physics to it. I will get a graph of the Finnish Twitter, and it looks like this. This is the Finnish Twitter, the map over the Finnish Twitter. And the size of each node, each account, is the number of relationships, means followers following, within the graph. So an account followed by many spam accounts will not be big, because you have to be within the graph. The colors are modularity. That's a way of making a mathematical cluster. The position, as I described, will also honor clusters. So people who are following each other will be together, and that's also what the colors will show. Nodes sharing characteristics will cluster. And there are actually three forces used in this graph, and it's repulsion, attraction, and gravitation. And what do the colors mean? Well, really, I don't know. You have to find out. They are relevant, and actually I do have some clue, but someone else has to look into the graph and dig deeper and find out who the more small differences in different parts of the graphs. But it seems to be something like this. So we've got an IT business and media cluster and media politics, so churches, librarians, entertainment, sports, etc. Quite similar to the Swedish. I'm missing some clusters that exist in the Swedish, but the northern or northeastern clusters are very similar to the Swedish graph. When I can say we actually don't have a manga anime cluster in Sweden that I have found at least. So now this graph is of course interactive, so you can move around in it. You can zoom in, you can look at the counts. Again, the size is the influence, you could say. And you see all the small lines in the background are the relationships. It's a little bit hard to see because there are so many of them. And so it's just moving around in the graph. And you can, I will put this live now, I think. Yeah, now it's live. I think so. It will be on finishtwitter.com/graph, and you can just zoom around, look into it, try to figure out who is who's following who, and I can also say that there are some in this tool you can actually search for example, screen names. I will look into Yle. I can zoom to that user. That was a bad one. We take something else. Take the ASFI. I can zoom to it. I can click on followers, and I will see everyone following ASFI. Maybe this was a little bit stupid because this is a lot of followers. So this will probably take some time to load. Yeah. Yeah, that was stupid. Yeah. So really that doesn't say anything, except that the the purple people are not following HSFI. Maybe we'll look into something else. No, not there. Hey, give me a, I don't know any Finnish names. Give me a name. Pekka. Here's some Pekka. Look at to that person. Who is following him? Yeah, etc. So basically just play around with the graph. You can look into here, see you'll get someone called Desukun. Let me show followers. Someone in the anim. Say most followers only in the anim community, but some spread out in different parts of the. So basically, that's what I have to say, and I will publish this presentation and all the data on finishtwitter.com, and feel free to play around with the graph. And if you write blog posts, make your own analysis, and please link to me when you do, so I can look what you figure out, and well, keep tweeting. And do you have any questions? Please feel free to ask them now. If not, we will turn off this presentation. I'll see if did I put it out, or is it still password protected? Yeah. Sorry. I'll do it directly. Da. No, that didn't work. Now, you should be able to access census.com/graph. Yeah. Yeah, I got a question if there are any big surprises when analyzing data. Most surprising, actually, so far is the discrepancy in iPhone usage. That's a big difference. Then I cannot. I mean, I do not know about the Finnish community, so I cannot really make intelligent analysis of the graph, how people are clustering and etc. So my understanding of the graph is very limited, and I hope someone else will dig deeper into it. But yeah, so far the most interesting thing I've found out is the mobile usage. And then in a couple of weeks we'll present the Swedish data, and after I published the Swedish data, I also publish a more of a comparison study between Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Norway. Now I got a question. Does a user that retweets Finnish tweets but writes own in English count in? Well, it depends. You will be identified as one language, depending on which language you primarily tweets in. Now, I exclude retweets. I do not exclude manual retweets, but I exclude the new style retweets. So just click the retweet button. It will not be included in the data set. But I'm more than happy to answer questions about whether a certain person is in the data or not. I have a little tool just to check why is this person not in the data, and you will get the answer if it's because he's English or he's tweeting in Swedish or anything else. That also has to be said about this data, but the Swedish-speaking Finns are, of course, not in this data set. They will be in the Swedish data set that I publish in the beginning of March. Then I will also try to take the Swedish-speaking Finns and move them to the Finnish cluster graph just to see how it looks. That's a little bit making violence on the data, but it will be just interesting thing to do, I think. Do we have any more questions? Yeah, Louise is asking whether she's in the data. Finfield, we'll check that directly. Oui. Whoops, you don't seem to be in the data. And then I have to check why you're not in the data, and that I cannot do. Or I can do that. That we shall not do during live broadcast. All right, tweeps, thank you for listening to me, and feel free to ask more questions during whenever you want to. And as I said, I will publish the presentation in a while. Thank you.